Welcome to Dark Horse Matters, the show about people, their passions, and their pursuit toward happiness. I'm your host, Bev Matayoshi, and my passion is talking to people about their passions and what their dreams are and what drives them. So if you're new to the show, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified, because every week we have a new guest and you never know, this person could inspire you to just go after what really matters to you in life and what makes you happy. So, and if you're returning, thank you so much for the support. Everybody has been so encouraging and positive, and it's been great. So thank you so much for the support. But today's guest is a very passionate person about science. She's a teacher, and God bless all the teachers today, because it's been a difficult year, especially for teachers and anyone who works in the medical field. But this woman, she really inspired me. She was my biology teacher at a community college, El Camino College in Gardena, California. And it's just amazing how much information I actually retained from her class after all these years. I think I took her classes like in 2006. Gosh, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But today, I just want to, with that being said, just want to welcome Dr. Teresa Palos. Thank you for coming on the show. Yay!
Thank you for the invitation. I am looking forward to visiting with you today.
Well, thank you so much. I just wanted a chance to acknowledge you for your good work, because, when people go to school, a lot of times, they're just doing it because they want to get the grade so they can move on, right? But man, when I took your class, I was engaged, man. The way you presented the information was very, very, it was hard not to learn what you presented, because it was very engaging and hands-on. And I really appreciate it so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, my goal with my students at the outset is to encourage a passion for the topic. And of course, I teach biology, but I also teach microbiology as well. I teach biology for major students and microbiology for those students interested in pursuing nursing careers. So, and not just nursing careers, but the allied health disciplines. So I've been doing it for a while now, and what drives me is the energy that I derive from my students in the classroom. That's why this pandemic has been rather challenging.
I can imagine.
Yeah, that engagement has been it's there, but it's different.
Yes, and I can't even imagine what that's like, because what I experienced in your class, that's part of the thing that made it so, ingraining into my brain, was the hands-on, how we really dived into the information, physically.
Yeah, and that's accomplished with the laboratory component for these courses. And that's what's been the most difficult during the transition to an online format, because the courses weren't designed for that.
Right.
So we've had to make a considerable number of adjustments. But what I'm really looking forward to is a return, perhaps not to pre-pandemic normalcy, but to work our way there over the next couple of semesters. So I will be one of a handful of life science faculty members that are planning on a return for the laboratory component, where you have that hands-on element to the course or the courses. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah.
it'll happen. It'll happen. It's been weird, but I believe it. We're gonna have some kind of normalcy again.
Just need to do what we are supposed to do.
Right. Everybody has to do their part, and and it will happen. It's not going to stay the same forever. We always bounce back. We're a strong species.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to kind of before we really dive into the science, I want to just ask you and to talk to the audience about, where are you from? Like, where exactly are you from?
Well, I'm from Los Angeles. I am of Mexican ancestry, and I was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley, which is north of downtown LA. I was raised in a community called Pacoima, and a lot of hardworking individuals in Pacoima, low income to low middle class, um, or low middle income, I should say. Misspoke there. Um, and I was raised by a fiercely independent mother, single parent household, um, along with a sister. And it's because of my mother that I learned the value of hard work and responsibility. And that is what I think has um, driven what I have done educationally and what it is that I do for a career. Um, so I come from a large Hispanic family, and they've been an influence as well.
It's really
Um,
great to hear that you're from, I mean, that you that you came from a single parent household. Single, I'm a single mom, so I can relate to that,
yeah,
and my kids see how hard I work. Sometimes I feel bad for them, but they appreciate me. They actually verbalize how much they appreciate me. And 8 and 9, that's kind of, I almost cry whenever they do that.
no, I do get that because there are times when I look at my mom and I say thank you. Thank you for what it is um, that you've taught me from that perspective. Um, and she's always encouraged the educational component. Um, she she only finished like the fourth grade, and then she emigrated from Mexico as a young woman and worked right away and worked for decades until she retired. And she really did go ahead and set the example, and I very much appreciate what she's done. And
Wow.
I make every effort to go ahead and see her weekly.
Oh,
Um,
that's great.
Still, she's in Pacoima. She's lived there for decades, and I go out there every Sunday and have dinner with her.
Oh, that's nice. And it's been hard for, more elderly people, they've been my patients, when they come to the dentist, they're like, they're kind of excited almost because they've been locked up for so long. You know?
Well, she it was a challenge at the outset. I think I had to go ahead and really convince her and other family members, because I have other family members that live in Pacoima as well. And I really worked hard at discussing with them the safety protocols and what it was I needed to go ahead and do. And it eventually worked out, but that too was rather interesting. I would show up with the mask and she'd say, I, and I'm going, Mom, come on, I need to go ahead and wear a mask for your protection. Not just for mine, but for your protection. So it's been an interesting dynamic, but she understands. She
Yeah.
understands. And she too is fully vaccinated now.
Oh,
So
good,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So, growing up, like, when did you discover your passion for science? Like, were you always, interested in science?
I love school. It every aspect of being within the uh, classroom environment, but where I particularly gravitated towards was the biology. Was there any particular instance that inspired me in a general way? No, I always enjoyed school. I was always a good student. I had teachers that were fantastic. I could say that from the K through, throughout the K through 12 experience. And they encouraged that, they fostered that. Where I think my fascination in microbiology occurred was really rather interesting. Um, it was about 3, 4 weeks before my high school graduation when I started to feel odd, right? Fatigued, exhausted, I had a fever. I had this fine punctate rash, and the palms of my hands started to itch, and other parts of my body. I'm going, something's wrong. Something's very wrong. So my mom took me to the doctor, and upon his diagnosis, he stepped back about 3 or 4 feet, and he looked at me and he said, "You have scarlet fever." And I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you have
Whoa.
scarlet fever." And I said, "Okay, how did that happen?" And that's when he introduced me to bacteria. So I, of course, had antibiotic treatment, and that began my interest in the discipline. So that when I went to UCLA, um, I chose, after about a year and a half of being undeclared, I chose microbiology as my major, and enjoyed it immensely. And that, I think, is what really fueled my interest in the life sciences um, at the university, at UCLA.
Wow.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
so you got sick with scarlet fever, and that's what fueled your passion for microbiology. That's
Well, certainly. Yeah,
we
well,
did. Yeah.
when the doctor says, don't have anyone get near her. She has to have her own set of dishware, own set of utensils. It sort of makes an impact. You know, when I had
Right.
family members standing at the fence waving
You're like
hello,
quarantined.
in a sense, I was. So it does sort of stick with you, right?
Right.
So my mother was the only one that was anywhere close to me, right? She's mom. She
Yeah.
went ahead and did what she felt she needed to do to make sure that I recovered from that bout. And then I went through graduation ceremonies, 3 weeks later, 2, 3 weeks later.
That's
So it was,
crazy.
yeah.
And we dental hygienists are kind of nerdy about bacteria as well.
Mhm.
That's a cool story. So, like, can you walk us through now, like, your journey when you became a teacher? Like, what made you decide to go that route?
I sort of fell into it by accident. Um, see, I was like I said, my major was microbiology. So I started to explore what it was that I wanted to go ahead and do with that. And I happened upon public health. So I applied to the public health program at UCLA, and was accepted and began my studies. And it was a natural evolution, right? Microbiology is an undergraduate, public health for my master's degree. Um, and within, or during that time, I should say, that I was studying, I became a student worker at the California State Department of Toxic Substances. The name has changed. I don't even remember the name of the agency, but I was a student worker because I was interested in environmental health. And after my experience there, I decided that, maybe I want to go ahead and stay in academia. So how in academia? I don't know, research, that was the focus. I didn't have teaching on the brain. I decided that I was going to go ahead and pursue a doctorate. After taking toxicology, a toxicology graduate course, I became interested in neurotoxicology. Well, then that led me to a PhD program in neuroscience.
Wow.
What I did was I essentially followed my interests. I still didn't have teaching on the brain.
Hmm.
I just enjoyed learning different things. So I went from microbiology to public health to neuroscience. And then after my studies, I went ahead and I pursued two postdoctoral stints, once again at UCLA, over 5 years. Now, that is when I started doubting whether I wanted to stay in research. So I happened upon, after doing some internet searching, I happened upon an internship program with the Los Angeles Community College District. And I applied and I was accepted. And that experience led to me taking over a non-majors biology class at one of the LACCD colleges when an instructor resigned. So that was my first foray into community college teaching. And what I realized then is that I derived a lot of energy from what was going on in the classroom. And I was much more interested in that than actually being in the research setting.
Right.
So I started to explore that interest a little bit more. I was called into another emergency situation when another faculty member had to take time off because of illness in her family. And a couple of, I think it was about about one or two academic sessions later, I got a call to go ahead and have my own class. And then at the same time, I had another class at another institution, all while I was a postdoc. So it was a crazy semester where I was teaching at night and on Saturdays and doing the postdoctoral work during the day.
Wow, just a lot.
Yeah, it was insane. It was insane. I used Sundays to go ahead and sleep and recover for my week before I actually started over again. But it was being in the classroom and interacting with the students, and then having the students go, wow, I get it. I understand. I'm going, oh, okay, I hit upon something.
Yeah.
That fed that enthusiasm, that passion for discussing science, right? So I went from, the creating part in the research realm to actually transmitting. And at the same time, along with the transmission of the content, really focusing on, well, how can I go ahead and present the content and have them apply their critical thinking skills?
Right.
So it was an evolution.
Yeah. This is what I loved about your class. Like, I just want to share my experience, like, because I mean, you probably don't even remember. I took biology 1 and 2 and microbiology from you. Because I started off with just biology 1 and I was like, oh, I love this teacher. She's like super good. So I continued and took the next class. And then I took micro because that was all prerequisites before the dental hygiene program.
Yeah.
But I just remember in your biology class, it was so much fun. Like I actually brought my digital camera and filmed inside the microscope so I could take home the video of the amoeba we were looking at.
Yeah, I might still have that actually.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious? I can't find mine.
Still do. I need to find it so that I can go ahead and use it once more.
No, but it was hilarious. Like, I'm such a nerd. We would be I'd be having a party at my apartment. Like, people would be, beer in one hand, and I'm showing them videos of a paramecium, and you know what I mean? Like, super nerdy kind of party, but that those videos got used. We would talk about it all the time. And then, I just remember like the way the exams were set up, how there were all stations and you had to answer each question according to what you saw in the microscope on a cellular level. And I just remember it just being, I remembered what the microorganisms were called and what they looked like, like I got into an argument with this chiropractor student. We were arguing, because after we watched that paramecium video, actually, he was like, oh, do you know that parameciums are what causes malaria? And I was like, no, it's not. I was like, it's plasmodium. And I was like, I even know what it looks like. It's like, it has like these red bat wings. I remember. I was like, I can't believe I remembered that.
Oh, wow, that's a while ago.
Yeah, I know.
Time ago.
But it was just funny. I got into an argument with him and he was so sure he was right. It was just, that's how the inflammation stuck, it just, and then I just remember in micro, like we had to do all those, gram stainings and I just remember that smell of bacteria in your lab, a very distinctive smell, which was,
Well, once we return, it's we're going to go back to that, and I'm looking forward to that because
yeah.
speaking about micro, I think one incredibly valuable experience is working on the unknown project,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I know. I remember
Yeah.
that. That was so much
Yeah.
fun discovering which bacteria you had.
Still do that.
Yeah, that was
Do that.
amazing. And
And
when I talk to my patients about bacteria in the oral cavity, and like we have a Sonicare that actually has a UV sanitation box. Like they
okay.
actually have a version of the Sonicare that has that. That's the one I have. And the reason why I have it was because of what I learned in your class, because the UV light kills the bacteria. So I was like, that stuff works. I know it works because I did the experiment. So I tell my patients. It's pretty funny. I sell Sonic hairs because of that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a return, most certainly. Right now, what the students are doing is they have access to virtual labs, and they work on assignments that relate to the material that we discuss in lecture. Because what I do is I conduct live lectures via Zoom or the Cisco WebEx, which is a similar type format. So that's how I conduct my lectures. And then most of the time they work independently on that laboratory component. But it's not the same.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
you
not
can't
the same.
culture your own I guess you could culture your own bacteria, but
I
ugh.
wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, me neither.
You don't know what you're going to go ahead and grow.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's been the most difficult. The most
Yeah.
difficult.
I can
But
imagine.
I still work at trying to make those connections with my students, and I know I know I do connect with some. Um, it's difficult with others, because what I have found is that many of my students work a fair number of hours, and they have access to the recordings, but it's not the same as having that connection and being able to ask questions on the spot.
Hmm. Right.
So it's different. I'm getting the content to them, but I really feel for the students that I'm working with now because they're not getting that other part.
Right, right. I just remember like how passionate you were when you were lecturing live in the flesh, like I always sat in the front because I'm a nerd like that. But I just remember because you had a lot of nursing students in your class, and
Yes.
there some of them would just be like deer in the headlights, and you would just be like, you know, super animated about the bacteria that we were learning about. And then I remember this one lady was like, and you were like, "Oh, question!" You were like so excited that she had a question, and then she was like, "Are you mad?" And you're like, "You're like, no, I'm not mad. I'm just passionate." I thought that was so funny. I was just like,
I'm
"That's
still
my kind of
animated.
teacher."
I'm still animated. It's just that the students can't see that.
It's hard to be like, to transfer that energy through a screen.
Yeah, no, it is. It definitely is. Um, but I've been doing it now for, I don't know, I think I did my adjunct work for about maybe a year and a half, not continuously, but for about a year and a half. And now I've been at ECC now for, this is my 17th year.
Wow.
Um, yeah, in 2006, it was only my second year.
I'm
So
so appreciative at the fact that you're teaching at a community college. I feel so lucky that I got an education like that from a community college because, like I truly believe that the quality of education I got from your class was definitely at the college, 4-year big college, level. Like you could be teaching at any college, you know, with the way you teach, like the quality of the education is right up there. And I feel very lucky, and I'm so happy that you're teaching at a community college, because a lot of students, you know, get the opportunity for that kind of education that's really engaging. And El Camino College, like I had a lot of really great teachers there. I really enjoyed myself at that community college.
If I look at my colleagues in the life sciences, um, we're passionate about what it is that we do. And when you look at a community college, the focus is on teaching. It is not these split responsibilities where you have research requirements along with the teaching. It's focused solely on teaching. So I've got colleagues that very much enjoy being in the classroom, and it's not just in the life sciences. That's the case in chemistry, and that's the case in a variety of the other STEM disciplines. So um, we do a really good job of educating our students so that they are able to go ahead and move forward. Um, and we derive that energy from being in the classroom. I cannot emphasize that point enough. I
Yeah,
really can't. So I'm excited about returning, but we need to return in a safe manner.
right.
And we'll get there. We'll get there. But it's I can't wait until that occurs.
When you teach, are you at home, like, or do you actually go into the class and have your digital learning over
No, no,
there?
no. We do everything from home. I actually, when I've gone to my office, I have to seek permission to even access my office, and I've had to do that several times to pull my materials so that I can go ahead and have lectured from home. But that's the format that we're in right now. The classes that are on campus currently are those from the essential disciplines. So, say for example, nursing.
Mhm.
Nurses are needed. So it's those disciplines that are on campus, but very if you look at all the courses across the institution, it's a small percentage. Um, we are in the midst of planning for the fall, and even then, it's going to be limited. Not all the life scientists are returning.
Mhm.
It's a handful, and for us, we have the option of staying at home and continuing with that modality. I've opted to return for my labs,
Mhm.
the laboratory, the hands-on work by the students is so essential.
It is. In science, it definitely is. It really
Yeah.
does help ingrain the information, and just it makes you understand it so much better.
Oh, most certainly. And I think what will happen is that with the limited number of classes that are going back, that will inform what will happen in the spring. So we're working our way there. We just have to, as a society, do what it is that we need to go ahead and do. And
Right.
it's when you listen to the media, it's not always the easiest thing to do. I mean, I look at my family, and it's not the easiest thing to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, this vaccine hesitancy is very real, but the sooner um, folks become vaccinated, large numbers, more than what we have now, become vaccinated, I think the sooner we can move towards
Right.
that normalcy that we
Right.
so crave because we crave it.
Yeah. Here in Gwinnett County, like my kids are in second and fourth grade. Man, I just remember, like, after, because my kids have been in class face to face, since the fall, and
Mhm.
they've been okay. We've had a couple of scares, but I just remember after the holidays when everyone kind of went a little crazy, hanging
Yeah.
out together. We've all the teachers just started getting sick.
Oh,
So like they were just kind of like stay home for another week, don't come back for another week or and we had a couple of instances where somebody was exposed and I had to stay home with my kids for another week. So it was a little crazy, but since then it's been okay. There hasn't been any problems, but
I can't even imagine being a parent with school-age children right now. I mean, or over the past year.
yeah,
Uh, it's. I have one student that has 4 children that she's had to work with at home
yeah.
while
And
she's doing her studies, right?
yeah, gosh. Yeah, and I mean, I have to go to work. With what I do, I can't be home with my kids and homeschool them. During the quarantine for 2 months, our office was closed, and we I got to stay home with them, which was so amazing. Like being able to homeschool them for 2 months. It was challenging at first, but I actually had fun with it after a while. After we got used to it, we did all kinds of science experiments at home.
Grow bacteria.
Oh no, not quite, but yeah. But we had a lot of fun. Yeah. I made the best out of it, but they do good in school though, face to face. Like they just need that interaction
Oh,
with other
it's
kids.
essential.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being around kids their age, right? The socialization is critical.
Oh yeah. My
Yeah.
daughter is a social butterfly. She would go crazy if she couldn't interact with other kids her age. She would go crazy. My son, he would just be like, on the device and he'd be happy, but he needs that because, he just needs to, he needs that interaction and,
Right.
they need friends. It's so critical at this age, 8 and 9 years old. I just remember how important it was for me to have friends when I was that young. So, but
I have to add to that. The social aspect of my job is something that I sorely miss. I miss the interaction with my colleagues. I miss chatting in the hallways and discussing what it is that we're doing in our classes. Um, and that too has been rather eye-opening. So it's not just the students that need the socialization;
yeah.
the educators do as well. And we've discussed this several times as we have our Zoom meetings, right? When we go ahead and meet as a group. So yeah, it's not just the students; it's the educators as well.
Yeah.
So it's hit at a variety of levels, and it's hit a number of different stakeholders within the institutions. So it's been an amazing period of time because we're all going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The school's doing okay though. Like, gosh, I don't want to hear any stories about El Camino closing down because
Oh no, 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 not at all.
okay.
Um, no, like I said, we are in the midst of doing some planning for the fall. I have a plan as to how I want to conduct my laboratories. They're not going to be as what we had pre-pandemic. It's not going to be the case, but it's better than I think what we have now.
That's good.
So my hope is that by the spring, it'll be closer to normal. But we've got to get in there and
Yes, yes,
begin the process, however modified it's going to look. But we've got to go ahead and start.
right.
So soon.
Yeah.
Soon. My goal right now is to get through this semester with the uh, uh, fully
Gosh,
online.
you must
So
have like way more paperwork to do. Is
it's been a challenge. Creating essays online. Oh my gosh. What I have found is that it takes 2 to 3 times longer.
I can
Only because
imagine.
of all the clicks that I have to go ahead and do to get to the essays themselves. And I didn't use the management system that we're using now. Basically, we had to switch over and start using it in a matter of days.
Wow. You guys
Uh,
literally had to learn like a whole new language overnight.
Crazy. It's like I would go ahead and call a friend. Okay, what do I do? How do I do this? Please tell me. We'd go ahead and schedule meetings, Zoom meetings, right? And she'd have to go ahead and walk through some of these things with me because she had much more experience with the system than what I had because there wasn't a necessity for me to go ahead and have that experience
Right.
until we shut down. And it's like
Hmm.
within a matter of days. And unfortunately, one of my classes was canceled in the spring because of it.
Oh,
There's no
wow.
way that, because in the spring I handled 3 preparations. There is no way that I could go ahead and do that with 3 different preparations
Yeah.
when we shut down. So my micro was actually canceled in the spring.
Oh,
Um, yeah, yeah. And I had my 2 majors biology courses. And this spring I have all 3 preps. So I began teaching the microbiology again last fall, but online. So that gave me the opportunity to become familiar with the course management system, and really basically working on a course per semester. So it's not as crazy as the last spring, but still not ideal.
right, right.
Yeah.
So, do you have any other passion projects going on besides, I'm not that, I mean, I'm sure you have very limited time, but I don't know,
Very
anything
limited
else?
time, but I do squeeze in birding. I enjoy birding. So I
What's
like,
birding? Watching?
uh, yeah, observing wildlife, specifically birds.
Oh,
And what happened in 2016 is that I took a sabbatical and I focused on birds at a local preserve. And along with that, I took an extension course at UCLA with a biologist that specialized in ornithology, and um, absolutely fell in love with that activity. And I try to squeeze it in when I can. I wish I could do it more often. Not possible, of course, but it's just phenomenal learning about different birds and the habitats within which they preserve, and learning about some issues that you have within the realm of conservation. So um, I've got a group of friends that are just as passionate about that, and it's been fun. I've been doing this since about 2016, and
oh,
absolutely
that's
fell in love with it.
that's cool.
So
You
that
know,
that that I would say is a passion.
yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of really big birds over here in Georgia. My gosh, they we go hiking and stuff and they're huge. The wingspans are huge.
Yeah, wherever I go, I try to go ahead and take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So I spent some time in Washington and hung out with a cousin, and that's what we did. Right, we hit wildlife refuges and hit the hiking trails and just had a blast. Had a good time.
Did you see any specific rare ones out there?
Not rare ones, but I was there a very short period of time again because of my schedule didn't permit a lengthy stay. But in one weekend, I saw maybe a dozen bald eagles.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
Oh God, they're gorgeous birds.
I've never
Um,
seen one in real life before.
wow, they're amazing. They are absolutely amazing. So that was a treat for me. That
Yeah.
was a treat. But I do. That's when I have the time. That's what I try to do. And I try to hit new areas, and that's not often possible. So I stay local. I'm not too far from El Camino. Pre-pandemic, I'd go ahead and walk to work.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, yeah, I'm in the South Bay,
Yeah.
and I try to hit spots within the South Bay.
I love that area, Gardena. That's like the Hawaiian town of of Los Angeles, and that's where I'm originally from. If you ever make it out there, they have some beautiful birds in Hawaii.
Mm. That, definitely a place that I would like to visit, but I think if I were to go ahead and focus on an area within the U.S., I would like to explore the Pacific Northwest a bit more.
Oh, okay.
That right now is my my favorite region of the country. I love visiting the Pacific Northwest with family.
Oh, that's nice. Like,
Yeah.
is there a specific state can you think of? Like,
Washington. But I took a road trip with my mother a couple of years ago through Oregon, and it's just incredible. It's amazing.
gorgeous,
Oh,
gorgeous
yeah,
place.
yeah. So those are two states that I would like to explore a bit more.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? Thank you so much for meeting with me today. I really appreciate this conversation, and I just wanted,
Very
the
welcome.
opportunity to just tell you how much you impacted my life and what an
Thank
amazing
you.
teacher you are.
I enjoy hearing from former students, and it it reaffirms the approach that I take, and it makes my day. It makes my day when I have the opportunity to go ahead and engage in the conversation with them, or when I visit with them. On that road trip, I managed to visit with two former students in Portland. We
Oh,
met for
cool.
dinner, and I maintained contact with others, and it's been a treat.
Well,
So
I
thank
hope
you.
that we stay in touch because
I do
I
too.
I will definitely have more, nerdy science stories to tell in the future, and I'm sure you have plenty. All right, Dr. Palos, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing
Thank
your
you.
story.
Thank you. I
And thank
enjoyed it.
you, everybody, for coming and hearing Dr. Paul's story on Dark Horse Matters. And, if you like this episode, just, share it with your friends and just make sure you, subscribe and, tune in with us next week. And until then, be passionate.